Welcome to my project on prions. So what is my pathogen? The pathogens that I chose are prions, which are typical proteins found in every human, but have the special ability to misfold into abnormal shapes and become pathogenic. These prions also lack DNA. So as you can see in the picture, these are some believed structural differences between an example of a normal and diseased prion protein. So how do prions spread? So the accumulation and growth of these abnormal prion proteins is referred to as transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, also known as prion disease. Prion disease is spread through an individual, which can be either a human or an animal's body, typically in the brain, when the affected proteins induce abnormal folding in the unaffected prion proteins in the surrounding area. But in terms of person-to-person transmission, we are not aware of how, if at all, prions can be spread. So mortality and morbidity rates. Mortality rates in prion diseases are 100%, meaning that they are, in fact, completely fatal. Morbidity rates vary depending on which specific prion disease is being discussed, but they are all very rare. Some examples of more common ones: Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, more commonly known in some cases as mad cow disease, has about 1 case per million people every year in the United States, as compared to fatal insomnia, which is exactly what it sounds like, which has about 1 case per million people every year worldwide. Kuru is another well-known prion disease, but actually has no known cases since around 2010, before then existing only in Papua New Guinea. So origin in affected regions. We're not exactly positive where prion diseases originated from, but one of the leading theories is called the Verino hypothesis. And this theory basically states that the unaffected host prion proteins, referred to as PRPs, associated with a foreign pathogenic nucleic acid, which cause the hosts to fold abnormally. And this theory is supported by the fact that you can have variations in both prion proteins and similar variations in prion diseases. So in terms of affected regions, geography has little to no effect on prion diseases, since it has to do with brain proteins and brain cells, with several rare exceptions, the most known being the aforementioned Kuru disease, which we discussed earlier, which is now eradicated because it had to do with brain-eating cannibals in Papua New Guinea, and ritualistic brain and cannibalism is now outlawed. In terms of signs and symptoms, some symptoms are hallucinations, muscle stiffness or fatigue, confusion, difficulty waking up, and in cases of fatal insomnia disorder, of course, fatal insomnia. And some signs of prion diseases can include difficulty speaking or completing motor functions, abnormal jerking movements, and in rare cases, mostly seen with Kuru, random outbursts of laughter. And as you can see, there are some pictures of 2 people, the man on top and the woman on the left, who are affected with prion diseases, who have lost, as you can tell, much of their motor abilities, especially the woman on the bottom. Diagnosis and prognosis. So those diagnosed with prion disease are assigned a specific disease such as CJD or fatal insomnia, depending on which one most aligns with their abnormalities and their symptoms, and it's diagnosed in one of 2 ways. The more simple way is by simply having a medical professional look at your symptoms and the signs of your prion disease and see which of the prion diseases it more closely coincides with. And while this is not 100% accurate, it requires much less effort and much less money than the other more complex one, which is by testing the brain tissue for abnormalities in prion proteins, which is taken from a biopsy or a corpse after death. And again, the prion disease prognosis is always death, typically in about 8 months, and at longest 1 to 2 years for CJD. So in terms of treatment and care, prion diseases cannot be cured, so medicines focus on easing symptoms and pain that come with them and come with the knowledge of death. So painkillers for physical symptoms and antidepressants and anti-anxieties. And again, care can only go as far as easing pain and providing moral support. Little's known about prions, so precautions are always being taken, but there's no evidence to support that they can be spread through bodily contact. Prevention, again, there's